This world doesn't require us to protest. This world requires us to silently opt out. And because I recently made a video about how the system runs on your convenience, I would like to call this one my January accountability journey and what am I doing to opt out of convenience. And you know what? I would also like to encourage you and inspire you, and what can firstly seem as an inconvenience can actually be the best thing happening to you. How hard decisions can actually free you. And let me start with everything is negotiable. And why do I start with this? In the world of increasing prices of utilities and groceries, we cannot opt out of electricity, right? We can save as much as we can, but that's not the solution. We can also aim to sustainability, but that will take some time. And so what do I do when my provider increases the prices of electricity? I do negotiate. And if they disagree, I do go find out another provider who can offer better prices. And so I would like to encourage you to do the same. Because if we all just conform to the same providers and they're increasing prices, then what? Then obviously it's a losing game. And the worst thing is that it's usually the big names who are offering the worst options. So if you can, go negotiate. And if you live somewhere when you can't manage this on your own, well, then it's a little bit of inconvenience. Maybe you can ask your landlord if they can do this for you. Maybe you can do it yourself, do the research, and then present the offerings to your landlord. Stop conforming. Stop accepting the hassle. And as I speak about big names, I'm not from a country where I would be used to getting everything from Amazon, but I actually think that us, who are not from the countries that are currently going through some kind of conflict, should opt out of these companies as well. And what was I indulging in on Amazon are ebooks, and I have to stop because I just found out that Amazon is kind of like renting me the book. They are selling me the license, but not the book itself. They can restrict any content anytime, and if I'm living in so-called safe country, I would say that there is also a big censorship that we don't realize. There is a huge censorship all over Europe, all over the other countries that are being presented with some kind of narrative. What if I'm reading a different book from what the others are actually reading? And I understand how silly that sounds, but I actually want to go back to printed versions, and also because I think that getting something instantly can hold you back from making the best choice. But if I will go into a bookstore, I will read at least the back of each book. I will hold it in my hands before I will actually buy it. And when I'm onto big names and entertainment, I finally canceled my Spotify, and let me tell you, it was so freeing, just because at the end, if you try to cancel your subscription, your membership, they are trying to scare you with statements like, you won't be able to listen to your favorite music, you won't be able to skip in between the songs. And I'm like, you know what? If you want to blackmail me, you have to try harder. So I finally canceled my subscription with no backup plan. But that leads me to another point, because I'm just right now waiting for my light phone to be delivered, this kind of a dumb phone. And so I won't be able to use apps anyway. And I'm waiting for it for more than 6 months now. So yes, it's a delayed gratification, and yes, I can't wait. Which also makes me think of that I'm opting out of overwhelm. And I mean overwhelm of information and overwhelm of choices. This year, I really want to shop mostly offline. Like, I understand that some things I cannot get offline, but if I can, I just want to opt out of another big name like Zalando. If you're in Europe, you probably know it. And some of you may say that shopping offline is actually limiting because you cannot get all the options that are there if you shop online. But you know what I also get back? I get back my energy, most likely my money that I would just ridiculously spend on things that I don't need, and that I would be disappointed anyway because maybe I would have to return them, and my time, which is the most precious currency anyway. I also challenge myself to match the time I spend on my phone with some type of creativity. I saw that somewhere, but what a great idea. Like, imagine that the screen time of yours, 4 hours a day, you would then spend doing something creative. So I try to challenge myself now, not daily, obviously, it's not manageable, and I also use my phone for work, but at least on the weekends, and that really helps me to decrease my screen time. Another change that I'm making, which can firstly seem as an inconvenience, but it's really the hard decision that freed me, is to feed my dog a raw diet. Because what was happening until now, my dog is almost 3 years old and she always refusing the kibbles after some time. So, when we switch to a new kibble, of course, she's very happy and maybe satisfied for a few months, but then I'm having a hard time to pick up another extremely holistic and perfectly curated kibbles that she would eat. Not that I only don't know what's in the kibbles and I'm very conscious of what I put into my body, so I realize I can treat my dog the same, and it can only seem as an inconvenience if I'm actually living in a hotel or in a van, where I wouldn't have the space to store the raw food. And as we kind of travel a lot, I realize that it will free me anyway, because raw food is something I can just get in a grocery shop. But finding a kibble that she would eat somewhere in a country that I don't even know was much harder. So this can seem as a small thing, but I trust it will also make a huge difference on her health. I'm already seeing small improvements after like 3 weeks since we started doing that, and I'm looking forward how it goes. And yes, it takes a little bit more time than to just open a box and pour a little kibbles in a bowl, but it's much more worth it. And with that being said, from time to time, I have to remind myself that I have to make decisions from a place of calm, peace, and love. And I would just like to remind you to do the same. So this is what I would call my end of survival era, because I'm no longer exchanging my time for convenience. And I'll challenge myself to make hard decisions, and I dare you to do the same. So let me know what kind of hard decisions you will make this year. And until next time,